Footnote the first. The UK is in a very odd position right now in regards to the European Union. It will take part in the 2019 European elections, but will likely leave the EU by the time the year is out. When it does so, British MEPs in the European Parliament will have to leave it. Their seats will partially be redistributed, and partially will just be no more, as the size of the European Parliament is planned to be reduced slightly when the UK leaves. At the same time this happens, UK citizens living in the UK and citizens of other EU states living in the UK will lose their right to vote, because to vote in the European elections, you must be a European citizen living in an EU country, and the EU will no longer include the UK. But this puts British citizens in the rest of the EU and non-British European citizens in the UK in an odd position, because you can vote in either your country of nationality or your country of residence. A British citizen living in another EU state can vote in that EU state, and a non-British European citizen living in the UK can vote in the state in which they hold nationality. But after the UK leaves, both British citizens in the EU and European citizens in the UK will lose their future right to vote, because British citizens in the EU will no longer hold European citizenship, and European citizens in the UK will no longer reside in an EU country. So, take me as an example. I am a British citizen and I reside in the Netherlands. I can choose to vote in the Netherlands. If I do so, the MEP or MEPs that my vote helps elect will still sit in the European Parliament, because the Dutch seats are not being redistributed. But I will lose my vote. As of by the end of this year, I will no longer be part of the European electorate, and yet the vote that I cast will still count in effect. The person who I helped elect will keep their seat. And this puts us in a very odd position, speaking from the principle of democracy. Now, it is the case that some people will vote and will later lose their right to vote, will no longer be part of the electorate by the time the next vote happens. Anyone who votes and then dies after they vote before the next election, anyone who votes and then moves abroad to a country in which they cannot vote in their home country, anyone who votes and then gets another nationality, the representative that they helped elect back before any of those things happened will still be there, but they will no longer be part of the electorate that that representative relies on. This is inevitable in democracy. You can't legislate against people dying, or moving abroad, or taking a different nationality. Well, in the last two cases, maybe you can, but most countries do not. But these cases, death, moving, or taking a different nationality, are sort of continual and low level. You know, a few people will do them every day, all the time. It's a constant underlying thing that's occurring and not a big deal. However, in the European elections, millions of British citizens in the rest of the EU and European citizens in the UK could vote to elect people, and then would lose their right to be part of the electorate of the European Union. And the scale and the suddenness of that change is what, in my opinion, makes this a little bit different. And I'm personally a little bit uncomfortable with this idea that millions of people will get to vote, say, in the Netherlands with a European citizenship while being British, but then by the end of the year will no longer be part of that electorate. There's really no way the EU can do something about this. You can't really restrict the rights of British citizens abroad or European citizens in the UK, at least not under present EU law, and indeed I really wouldn't want them to. But as an individual citizen, if you think that this is something a little bit democratically odd that perhaps you don't want to take part in, then that's fine. If you're a UK citizen living abroad, as I am, you can just vote in the UK, as I will be. And if you are a European citizen living in the UK, you can just vote again in the UK. And this will ensure that when you are no longer part of the European electorate, the MEPs that you helped elect will no longer be part of the European Parliament.